Cooper put on a pair of dark wraparound sunglasses with dark rims that would later become...
Okay, so get this right. There's this Vietnamese newspaper, and they might have actually cracked the D.B. Cooper case wide open.
Wait, seriously? After all this time, after what, 52 years? That's insane. You could tell me everything.
I know, it's wild, right? Okay, so basically D.B. Cooper is like the ultimate unsolved mystery, right? Like the Bigfoot of the sky. November 24th, 1971, this dude hijacks a Boeing 727, demands 200 grand, which by the way is well over $1 million in today's money. Then get this, he parachutes out mid-flight and poof, vanishes. Just like that.
Gone. And it's the only unsolved hijacking in U.S. history, isn't it?
Exactly. It's legendary. And now this article from Bao Quan Doin Kandan, it's got everyone talking because they're saying this one tiny detail, something that everyone missed for decades, could be the key to the whole thing.
Okay, all right, you got to give it to me. What is it? What's the detail?
A necktie.
A necktie.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
But it's not just any tie. It's like this JCPenney tie, right, from 1964 that Cooper apparently left on the plane. So fast forward to now, right? They do some crazy analysis on this thing, and it turns out it's got traces of over 100,000 rare elements on it.
Hold on. Let's break that down a bit, for our listener who maybe didn't ace their chemistry class. When we say rare elements, we're not talking about like a limited edition baseball card or something. These are elements that are incredibly scarce in the natural world, and finding them like this and in these numbers on a tie, that suggests that D.B. Cooper may have come into contact with something unusual, to say the least.
Exactly. And what's unusual and was also used in building aircraft back in the day.
You're not going to say titanium.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner. So now, entered Eric Ulis, a private investigator, total legend in the field, who has been, obsessed with this case for years.
Okay.
He's the one who connects the titanium to a Boeing subcontractor called Crucible Steel.
Oh, wow. So like a direct link back to Boeing.
Right. And get this, Ulis thinks he's found D.B. Cooper, a Crucible Steel employee named Vince Peterson, a titanium engineer who not only fits the description, but would have had access to that kind of material.
Wow. Someone might be thinking, okay, titanium, so what? But back in 1971, titanium, that was cutting-edge stuff, mostly used in aerospace. So for someone like Cooper to have been exposed to it, well, let's just say it narrows down the list of suspects quite a bit.
It's crazy, right? Like this random tie could be the key to solving this thing after all these years, all because of some technology they didn't even have back then.
It really makes you think about how far we've come with forensic science. Like, imagine trying to explain titanium analysis to someone back in 71. Their heads would explode.
No kidding.
Yeah.
We can tell what you touched 50 years ago just by looking at the dust on your clothes. It's insane.
The things you can do with a few atoms, right? But, 1971 wasn't exactly the dark ages for going either. They had their own issues going on back then. Layoffs, money problems, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
So it's not totally out there to think that maybe some disgruntled employee who knew their way around a 727 might do something drastic.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And, Cooper definitely knew something about planes, right? To pull this whole thing off, he had to. Choosing a 727 specifically, knowing how to use a parachute, that takes some inside knowledge.
Absolutely. Which makes you wonder, if this Vince Pearson is our guy, what was going on with him back then? I mean, what would make a guy, an engineer, seemingly normal life, risk everything to become a fugitive?
Yeah, did he just snap? Was it a desperate move? Or maybe he was just a total adrenaline junkie who saw an opportunity.
It's like we might never know the full story, And that's what makes these cases, these unsolved mysteries, so fascinating.
Totally.
It's like the psychology of it, trying to understand the why behind the crime. It's like a whole other mystery.
It's true. And, even though the FBI officially closed the D.B. Cooper case back in 2016, they didn't actually solve it, did they?
No, not really. They basically just said that based on what they knew and the conditions that night, they didn't think he could have survived the jump. Case closed.
But that doesn't sit well with everyone, right?
Yeah.
Like Eric Ulis. He's not giving up that easy. He's still out there chasing down leads, even if it means questioning the official story.
And you gotta admire that kind of dedication. Years of research, dead ends, all for a case that most people think is unsolvable. Why do you think people do it? What drives them?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's not like fame or fortune, Cold cases, especially ones this old, don't usually come with those.
Yeah.
What is it about these mysteries that just sucks people in?
Well, for some, maybe it is the thrill of the chase, the challenge of solving a puzzle that everyone else gave up on.
Yeah.
But I think it goes deeper than that. I think it's about needing to find an ending to a story that never had one, a need for justice, even if it's decades late.
And we can't forget about the human element, right? I mean, it's easy to get caught up in the mystery, but there are real people behind all this, people whose lives were changed forever by this.
Exactly. And for them, the families, the victims, those haunted by the mystery, time doesn't really heal those wounds. The questions don't go away, the doubt, the need for answers.
Which brings us back to that facial composite we talked about before. If this titanium trail leads to a guy who supposedly died in 2002, where does that leave us? Was it a case of mistaken identity? Or is there something more to it?
That, my friend, is the million-dollar question. And we'll dive into the, let's say, reliability of facial recognition and what that means for a case like this when we come back.
So it sounds like we're kind of at a crossroads with this whole thing, right? We've got this titanium trail that seems like it might lead to D.B. Cooper, but then there's the FBI saying they already matched Cooper's face to someone else, someone who's long gone. It's kind of giving me whiplash.
It really shows you how tricky it can be to put these old cases to rest. Like trying to solve a puzzle, but some of the pieces are missing, or maybe they're even from a different puzzle altogether.
And in this case, one of those tricky pieces is facial recognition, right? It seems so simple in the movies. You just scan a face and bam, case closed. But how reliable is that stuff really?
Yeah, Hollywood definitely makes it seem easier than it is. Facial recognition has come a long way, but it's not perfect, not by a long shot.
Right.
I mean, think about it. Lighting, the angle of someone's face, even just aging, all those things can throw it off. Plus, that original sketch of Cooper that was based on what eyewitness accounts from people who saw him during a hijacking. Talk about a stressful situation. People's memories aren't exactly known for being accurate, especially after all this time.
Okay, that makes sense. So where does that leave someone like Eric Ulis, our intrepid investigator? He's got this titanium lead, but the facial recognition points to a dead end. What's the move?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Do you trust technology that's got a pretty big margin for error? Or do you go with your gut, follow the clues, even if they lead to a dead end? It's a tough call, and it's something that every cold case investigator has to grapple with.
It's that old saying, curiosity killed the cat. But then again, didn't satisfaction bring it back? At some point, you just got to see where the path goes, right?
I think so. You got to follow the evidence wherever it leads. Even if it means proving yourself wrong in the end, at least you know you've explored every avenue. And I think that's what I find so admirable about people like Eric Ulis. He's not afraid to challenge the official story, to keep digging, even when everyone else has moved on. It takes guts.
So let's say we're Eric Ulis for a minute. We've spent years on this case, following every lead, every rumor. We got the FBI saying Cooper probably didn't survive, a face that doesn't match up, and now this tie with titanium on it, practically screaming, Boeing. What do we do?
Honestly, that's a tough one. If I'm Ulis, I don't think I can ignore that titanium. It's too specific, too intriguing. It could be a dead end, sure, or it could be the missing link, the one thing that makes everything else make sense. It's a gamble, but sometimes you got to roll the dice, right?
I guess so. And that's what's so fascinating about D.B. Cooper, even after all these years. It's a mystery that keeps evolving, keeps us guessing. Every new piece of evidence, every new theory just adds another layer to the story.
And it forces us to confront the limits of what we know, right? To accept that sometimes there are no easy answers, only more questions. And that, I think, is what keeps us coming back for more.
Maybe it's the hope that even in a world of unsolved mysteries, there's still a chance, however small, that the truth is out there, waiting to be found.
And you never know. It might be closer than we think.
Maybe it's just a necktie away.
Maybe it is.